finally sitting down for a network interview, his first in 118 days.
What a terrible job you have. I mean, I'm glad you're doing it, but boy, oh boy, does this seem like a bad gig.
But many assumed it would go down like that, considering Kimmel's history of partisan attacks.
I, for one, hope Ted Cruz never gets to eat peacefully in a restaurant again. I think I know why Kamala's ratings are low, besides sexism and racism, which are the obvious ones. In America's North Korea, the Sunshine State, vaccines came out in 1796 before a con man named Don made us all sick. So the Hamburger still hasn't announced his plans for 2024.
Jimmy Failla, host of Fox Across America on Fox News Radio and Fox Nation, joins us with his take. Jimmy, what did you think of the interview?
First of all, the whole thing is so pathetic that he hasn't done an interview in 118 days. Todd, that is 4 CNN pluses ago. That's a long time. And it's so pathetic that he goes to Kimmel for what was clearly supposed to be a talking point, spoon-fed interview, because they did cover topics. It wasn't like jokey and fun so much. It was Kimmel is trying to rehabilitate the images of Joe and Kamala, who are the only two people polling behind Johnny Depp and Amber Heard right now. But there he was doing the partisan grandstanding because, as you know, Jimmy Kimmel is the softest landing in media as far as late-night shows go. He is not a soft landing. He's a bouncy castle for all intents and purposes. Why? Because he has to devote his entire show to advancing the Democratic narrative because he's wore so much blackface earlier in his career that the minute he takes a centrist position, they are canceling this dude. So that was like a low-level extortion operation where they tried to make Biden look good. But come on, man. For a guy who said the buck stops here at a time when it's now $1.87 because of inflation, that was pathetic.
Yeah, you know, I always find it interesting when Jimmy Kimmel talks about women's rights and respect, which he did yesterday during the interview. When he was the creator of The Man's Show. And out of all the shows, that one does not hold up to today's standards.
That's a really good point, Carly. It's hard to take that seriously if you still have the images of girls bouncing on trampolines behind him as he speaks. But this is the fraud of the whole thing, man. Just the idea that Biden is even there right now. You don't realize, like, how indifferent that looks to the rest of the country that's, like, legit struggling. Like, I get that he's showing some sympathy by going on Kimmel, who's also struggling in the ratings. It's the 4th-ranked late-night show most nights, which is why I think if he wanted to move the needle, shouldn't he come on Gutfeld with us? Maybe this Monday he comes on Gutfeld with me and sits down, not so we can attack him, but maybe so we can show the human side of the guy and take an attempt at, I don't know, unity. Do you remember unity? This guy sat there last night, said, oh, it's the MAGA Republicans now, and the pandemic's the Republicans' fault, and the gun situation's the Republicans' fault. Hardly the stuff that brings people together, Carly. Yeah. If you're throwing a party and you send out save the dates, you don't say, hey, you racist white supremacist, RSVP to my party. That's never going to get you a favorable response, but that's exactly what he did.
With that, a former Obama official is ripping President Biden for his series of reckless gaffes on the world stage, like these.
Is a Taliban takeover of Afghanistan now inevitable?
No, it is not.
Are you willing to get involved militarily to defend Taiwan if it comes to that?
Yes.
You are?
That's the commitment we made. Ukraine will never be a victory for Russia. For God's sake, this man cannot remain in power.
Obama's former director of global engagement, yes, I said Obama's, says those gaffes are undermining America's standing in the world, even saying Biden's team should, quote, better prepare the president for obvious questions and also be prepared themselves in advance with responses and strategies for when the president sails the ship of state into uncharted waters. And he says Biden should reset his entire national security team. I'm going to take you into this question vis-a-vis your perspective as a comedian. So obviously, you like fodder for jokes. What trumps, pun intended, the fodder that you get from what Joe Biden says or your abject fear that something he says is going to get us all killed?
I think it's the latter, Todd. The best business to be in right now is selling alcohol to the White House press team. Because every time Biden opens his mouth, you hear 27 flasks open up down the hall at the White House. Because it's a mess, because we really don't know where this is going to go. And as much as we like to joke about it, the stakes are high. That Putin comment you played about regime change, that's World War III level stuff if it gets taken the wrong way. And I think that's the issue we're all coming to grips with. I mean, most of us did in the primaries. We knew all the way back in the summer of 2020, maybe the engine was running, nobody was behind the wheel. But nobody else in the country did their due diligence in checking the Carfax on this thing. But we have bought a lemon. That's why we are where we are. And the White House doesn't trust him to speak for himself. That's why everything he says gets walked back. I guarantee you there's a joke he told on Kimmel last night that's getting walked back by lunchtime today. Well, the president didn't really mean it.
Yeah.
Basically what's going to happen, Todd, is they're either going to never let him talk to the press again, or you're going to see him out there with a little shock collar on so they can zap him every time he goes off the prompter.
Well, apparently the president is mad at his communications team and his staffers for correcting him after he speaks. So there's this whole back and forth there. Speaking of back and forth, Elon Musk and Twitter. So Elon Musk is threatening to pull his $44 billion Twitter buyout deal after this new study showed at least 10% of Twitter's active users are posting spam content. And this goes against Twitter's claim that fake and spam accounts make up less than 5% of the platform's users. And the latest is that Twitter, Jimmy, is going to give Elon Musk the data so that he can figure out how many fake accounts there are actually on the platform. Where is this going from here?
Well, it's true that Twitter is like going to a hookup bar in Hollywood, and that 99% of what you see is fake. Like it's all plastic and silicone and God knows what else. I'm less concerned about the 10% that are bots and the other percent that are real humans tweeting this psychotic stuff. Twitter is like, what a land of misfit toys. Do you know how in like the Toy Story movie in Sunnyside, that's the one place where the toys weren't properly played with? They had like an eye bitten off or an arm beat up. That's the people on Twitter. It's just such a collection of broken humans. I think Elon Musk, honestly, wants to get out of this gig more than anyone realizes because it's turned into the biggest babysitting customer service job ever, in that every time something happens in the news now, people tweet like, what's up with this, Elon?
Yeah.
Are you going to do something about it? And I think this is an exhausting gig. I think Elon Musk buys Twitter. 2 weeks later, he takes a rocket to Mars and just never comes back.
I'm out. Peace. He's out. Jimmy Failla bringing the heat on a Thursday.
Jimmy.
Thank you, sir.
Hey, it's Will Kane. Click here to subscribe to the Fox News channel on YouTube. It's the best way to get our latest interviews and highlights. And click to subscribe to the Will Kane podcast for full episodes right now.